Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that is feeling a bit smug at the moment because I just want to say I called it. I called it last week. My name is Tosin. I am your host, based up in Coventry, Coventry in the Midlands. And joining me on the Isle of Wight are Sharon.
Hello.
And Sean.
Hiya.
Yes. Now, I'm saying I called it last week because did you guys see the news this week that Cineworld are pushing their opening date back?
Yeah, back to the 31st of July.
Back to the 31st of July. I think that at the moment we are in the middle of an almighty game of cinematic chicken. Because
no one wants to be the first today to open up.
I believe the one in Ride opened. Is it the Commodore?
The
one
Commodore,
in Ride?
the Commodore
that's opening. Yeah, I think that's open. That's open.
Because I think
I saw a post.
Yeah, that's a smaller independent cinema. It's not like a massive chain. So, and I think the Commodore, they are used to a lot of their stuff as well. It's not just on the new releases. It's also like, there was a time when we went to the Commodore, Sean, to see Lawrence of Arabia because they were showing it with the right film club.
Yeah.
So I reckon that the Commodore is a kind of place that can work on the charm of old movies for a while. But I think Cineworld, Cineworld pushed their opening date back to the 31st of July. And did you hear the reason why they pushed it back?
Was it because some of the film releases have also pushed their openings back?
Exactly. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Which is what makes me think this is good. This has the potential to be a farcical, never-ending game of chicken. Because I said last week that I reckon that what was going to happen is that the cinemas would open and then all the big film releases would wait. And they would wait for like 2 weeks or something like that and say, oh, well, no, let's see what's going to happen. And then they'll come in 2 weeks after and they'll see if opening the cinemas has been like an absolute car crash. Because they don't want to be, especially with what's just happening in the UK in Leicester. The fact that Leicester, which is 30 minutes from my house, it's literally 30 minutes from my house, has gone into a localized lockdown. They don't want to be like, oh yeah, by the way, we figured out that the COVID spike in this area came about because of a viewing of Christopher Nolan's new movie Tenet.
Oh yeah.
they don't want that. So the films pushed it back to say, oh, we're going to wait a while. And Christopher Nolan Tenet was supposed to come out mid-July. Cinemas said they would open up mid-July, and I think the cinemas were thinking we'll open with Tenet so that people would come into the cinemas. Then Tenet went, oh, wait a second, yeah, we're going to go to the end of August. And the cinemas went, well, if you're going to go back there, we're going to go later as well. So I think there's this chicken.
They keep pushing back.
They keep pushing back everything. There's just this game of chicken where they're all trying cinemas are like, well, we're not opening with any rubbish with our films. Odeon haven't said anything yet, though. So I think that now what is happening is that Odeon are keeping their release dates, or the opening date, around about the 11th, 12th, 13th of July. They're going to have a whole bunch of old films that they're going to show. Cineworld are going to look at Odeon and go, okay, nobody's dead. They'll open up on the 31st of July. Then Christopher Nolan and his Tenet friends will be like, okay, no one's dead. Open up in August. And if everything is okay, then we'll get our glut. But at the moment, there's a massive game of chicken going on in the cinematic world.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. Welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema. We've just started off and I think I'm already in rant mode. I think I am already in rant mode.
Here's the top search result.
Quiet, Google. So, how have you guys been doing anyway?
Yeah, pretty good, really. I've been doing quite a lot of work one way and another, so that's pretty good. So there's nothing else to do, so I worked quite late again. So that's it, really. I've just been working, really, and I've been. Stuff I've watched. I did watch. I tell you, here's a good one. I'll give you. We'll do lines from a film. Yeah, I'll tell you the film I watched. It's one that I've seen many times.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is. Let me think of a. Okay, here we go then. Hey, this is an American tank. We talk American. If you want to talk Mexican, join a Mexican tank.
Fury.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Fury. Yeah. So So I had to watch that. That wasn't a very good Brad Pitt accent, but yeah. So that's about all I've watched really. Or I've watched 6 hours of pure direness as well, which is like it's just like I call it 6 hours of my life, and that's 3 games of football.
Oh, Bournemouth.
Oh, Bournemouth! Yeah,
Oh,
what
Bournemouth.
a load of! I cannot. I mean, I can accept relegation, I think, but to watch that is embarrassing. I'm embarrassed, embarrassing. That's all I can say.
Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know, Sean is a Bournemouth lad and he's a Bournemouth fan. And at the moment, for those people who because there are some people who listen internationally, who might be thinking, what on earth it is, that this is something that we, as being in England, we are steadfast in calling it football. This is this is
soccer.
No, not soccer. Football. It is
football. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sean's team, Bournemouth, at the moment, looking very precarious and looking like they are going to get relegated and lose their top flight status, which is a sad thing because Bournemouth is one of my. I don't support a football team, but I have teams that I like. And Bournemouth is one of those teams that I just really, really liked, mainly because they didn't have any money, but they kept scrapping.
Yeah.
I love an underdog me. And Bournemouth were like Bournemouth were like the ultimate underdog over the last couple of years, and now it looks like we might not have them around much longer in the top flight, which is
I know in the top flight.
Yeah,
it is sad, really. They are actually surprisingly they are quite a liked team. A lot of people like Bournemouth. Like everybody has got their other team, but people say, "Oh, it's amazing." The people at work say to me, "Oh yeah, I like Bournemouth. I like Bournemouth." So
it's one of those.
I think, but
they like you until you become a threat. But
yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, anyway, so that's about the sum of what I've watched, really. I'm sure I might have watched something else, but I can't remember what it was. So it couldn't have been that good if it was or something. But there you go. All right. Sharon, what you watched? Anything good?
No.
All right.
Is that you haven't watched? Is that you haven't watched anything, or you haven't watched anything good?
I haven't really watched anything at all. I've just been catching up because I've been trying to catch up on some of the stuff that's been recorded over the last couple of weeks that I haven't got around to watching. So it's only the odd episode of sort of random things. There's been a great thing actually over the lockdown. It's finished now, but it was called Sky Arts Portrait of the Week, opposed to Portrait of the Artist of the Year. Portrait Artist of the Week it was. And every Sunday they would do it live streamed on Facebook and on Instagram. For 4 hours, they'd get a well-known artist, would come along and paint a well-known sitter, and then if you at home could paint along if you like.
Oh, wow.
And at the end, send in your submissions, and they would then pick the best best 3, really. They'd have the younger one, and then they'd have the sort of artist at the top. So I've been catching up and watching all of some of those. Because I still do church on a Sunday morning, even though we're in lockdown.
Yeah.
We still have like a routine where we have radio church, then we have Zoom church, then we watch either a YouTube church or television church. So Sunday morning is all church. So I haven't been able to watch many of them live.
Yeah.
But I do like to catch up on them, and there's some great works of art that they've produced in these sort of quite unusual circumstances.
Nice.
So I've been catching up on those. So that's the only thing I've really watched, I have to say. And an episode of Agatha Raisin, but that's a new series, so there's going to be more of those to come.
All right, good stuff. I mean, with because Agatha Raisin is one of those old-fashioned TV shows that does only one episode each week.
Yes.
It doesn't.
And they don't do the whole series. You've got to wait for them one a week. Yeah.
Oh my! How backward is that? You actually have to wait each week before a new episode comes out. All right. Okay. So we're a bit all over the place today. But for those of you who this might be the first time you listen, you might be thinking Netflix was a cinema. What the heck are you talking about? We kicked off, we spoke a little bit about cinema. So the show usually has a different format. We usually talk 3 things we've seen at home, 3 things we've seen in the cinema. We rate them out of 5, take an average, and we'll figure out where money has been better spent this week. But in the lockdown, what we're doing is we're having a little bit of a catch-up on what we've been watching in the lockdown, rating it if possible, if we have finished watching it or if we could be bothered to get to the end. And then we are going to have an interview, which today is one I'm quite excited about. We're going to have an interview with somebody who's a film buff. Someone who's a film buff and can tell us a little bit about their things. I'll ask them a couple of questions. And then we get back, we talk about what it is we have, we leave you, and hopefully it's not too long. And if you've probably have sat down and you would have finished an hour and a half of listening to us prattle on. And if you're still there at the end, then we like you. Get in touch with us. Get in touch with us on Twitter at Netflix via Cinema. Get in touch with us on Facebook, Netflix via Cinema. Because if you've listened to an hour and a half of us, you might be a kind of person. But so with that, I think it's been a week. I mean, after last week, where I watched Artemis Fowl and went into
rant mode,
and I went into rant mode. I think I've kind of like tried to detox a bit. I haven't really watched that much. I haven't finished watching anything. I've started watching something called it's on Netflix, and it's a TV series called The Tiger King,
I've heard of it, but I haven't actually seen it. It made a lot of waves, didn't it, when it first came out?
It made a lot of waves. It was one of the first big. What's it called? Lockdown hits. So right at the beginning of lockdown, this was the thing that everybody was talking about. Netflix released it almost at the beginning of lockdown, and everybody was watching this thing. Everybody was raving about it. And for something that's essentially a film review show, I have this unfortunate habit. If everybody's raving about something, I tend to ignore it.
I did exactly the same.
I know. I mean, we could never work professionally as like reviewers, could we, Sean?
No.
Because
couldn't.
Everyone's going, oh my god, you got to see this thing, and we're like, no, I refuse to see it until the hype dies down.
Yeah.
Too populist by far. I am not playing that game.
That's pretty much my thing, and I'm like everybody. It's like everyone is talking about it. It can't be that good, and so I actually started watching it, and it's all about these people who keep big cats for varying reasons, but keep big cats as pets in America, and it's one of these shows, right? That it is like prime car crash TV, because they keep going to all these different people in America who have big cat sanctuaries for one reason or another. And this is totally my opinion, but it's one of these things that every single character that they show you is worse than the last one they've shown you. You're thinking, that's a terrible person. Oh my God, you're worse. Oh my God. And there's just things in it that you're like, I can't believe these people exist. I honestly cannot believe they exist. But it is a well-made show. I think I'm about halfway through. I've only watched 3 episodes, so I started watching that. And I finally got to watch a film that people have been raving about for absolute years that showed up on Amazon Prime. It's have you guys ever heard of the film Top Secret with Val Kilmer?
Oh yeah, it's a Mickey
this is
tape.
quite a few years old, isn't it?
It's
Yeah,
like
it's quite old.
1980s, yeah.
Yes, I have. Is it a rip-off of like Top Gun?
No, it isn't. It isn't, but it's that kind of spoof movie. It was made by.
I think I've seen it at the time.
Yeah, it was made by the guys who made Airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Zucker Abrams Zucker guys.
They were quite prolific, really. There was another film which was like a montage, really, which was called Kentucky Fried Movie.
Yeah, Kentucky
Did you ever
Fried
see
Movie.
that?
Yes,
movie,
I saw that.
yeah. I think that was one of theirs as well. So that was
the first.
Well,
yeah.
bits of it were funny, but yeah. So then they went on to make those. But I think it was a spoof. It was one of those spoofs about loads of films, wasn't it? Like
it was mainly a spoof about. It was a bit confused. It was mainly a spoof about World War II movies. It was a spoof of World War II movies. It was a spoof of Elvis movies, and it was also a spoof of Cold War movies, because they talk about this American going to Berlin to play on the Soviet side, but like all the Germans are dressed in Nazi uniforms, and I'm thinking, hang on, wait, but if you're dressed in Nazi uniforms, there wouldn't be a Soviet side of Berlin, would they? and this tells you guys how much I have learned from the two of you, because the two of you are massive World War II movie buffs. Yeah, and this is the kind of film that it would totally have gone over my head before, that I would just be like, yeah, obviously war, yeah, Germany, yeah, Americans, and I was like, wait a second, if there's a Soviet side, why are they dressed as Nazis? and it's Val Kilmer plays this sort of like Beach Boys type Elvis type character who goes to there to play to repair relations between America and and the Eastern Bloc, so to say, but he gets involved in the resistance, and then Omar Sharif shows up as it's just like it's all over the place, and everybody talk about it.
Is there a bit that references the Blue Lagoon? I seem to remember a guy with long blonde hair, and he had grown up on this Blue Lagoon type island.
Yes, there is a totally random bit in it. There's a random bit where Peter Cushing shows up. Peter Cushing shows up Peter Cushing shows up for a scene, and the entire scene that Peter Cushing is in is played backwards. As in, you can see that they acted it backwards, and then they just rewound the tape for the scene that he's in. So it's kind of like, it's random, it's great, and like Sean, what you said about Kentucky Fried Movie, I feel like it's funny in bits. There's bits of it where you're like, yeah, and there's bits of it where you're like, And I think I might have fallen prey to the overhype, to the fact that people have spoken about this being one of the funniest movies of all time, and I was like, oh yeah, I can't wait to see it. Finally, I get to see it. Oh my god, let's watch this. And then I watch it, and I'm like, okay,
I don't get it. Yeah,
okay. No, I get it. I just don't think it's that funny. And there's one particular bit where they have the resistance, when he meets all these resistance fighters, and you have all these guys, and they're all called like very, very stereotypical French things like latrine and déjà vu. And déjà vu has the line, is like, he goes, this is déjà vu. It's like, haven't you met someone before? No, I don't think so. They have like déjà vu, latrine, essentially think about like, some really stereotypical French word, and they've named all these guys there, and then, and one of the it's a joke that you look at it and you have to go, if you are being generous, if you're being forgiving, you say it is of its time. Because of all the characters, there is one guy. One of the resistance fighters is black, who's played by a guy called Eddie Tago, and he is called Chocolate Mousse.
Oof.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you're kind of like, I'm like, you know what? He's actually probably one of my favorite characters of all of them, because he keeps doing this thing that you see in a World War II movie, where this guy, like, if a car's driving towards someone immediately gets like a Tommy gun and just goes and shoots at the car.
Yeah.
And he keeps doing this whole thing where he just stands there, and then somebody from the side of the frame hands him a gun from nowhere. Like, he's in the middle of a field, and all of a sudden someone just hands him a gun. He just goes and it shoots them. I just wish he had a different name. So yeah, I still in the level of spoofs, I would put Hot Shots above it. I'll put Hot Shots Part 2. I'll put the Naked Gun movies above it. I would probably even put Spy Hard, a Leslie Nielsen film, above it. And I know for a lot of people that would be absolute travesty, but I would give it a 3 out of 5. I'll give Top Secret a 3 out of 5.
Spy Hard.
Okay.
Spy Hard. I've never heard of that one.
Oh yeah, Spy Hard.
I bet that's quite funny though.
Spy Hard was.
What's that? Is that like Die Hard movie?
No, it's a spoof of spy movies. So it's a spoof of of Bond, probably 1960s Bond. It's a bit like, In Like Flint, or is it In Like Flynn?
Oh right, In Like Flint, or Matt Helm movies.
It was Flint, yeah.
Yeah. It's a bit like that.
Yeah.
Only this was made in the 90s with Leslie Nielsen. So it's so Spy Hard. It's quite I quite like Spy Hard. It's silly, but then again, that's what you showed up for. All right. So we've spoken about cinemas. We've spoken about what it is that we've seen. We've reviewed some stuff. I think it might almost be time. We're sort of flying through that before we usually do. It might actually be time to talk about interviews. What do you guys reckon?
Yes, I think.
Yeah, I reckon that's a good idea.
Okay, but before we talk about interviews, I promised you guys last week, because I told you I went into a Facebook group called Film Club. Mm-hmm. And I asked the question last week that with cinemas coming back in the UK, what was the last film you caught at cinemas before lockdown? And I thought I'll just have like a quick run through and tell you what people's answers were. So people, I'll mention a couple of names. A guy called William Robb says Sonic the Hedgehog, to which I said surprisingly good. By the way, there's 127 comments. So I'm going to sort of zip through these
Wow.
as possible.
Yeah.
So somebody, Sonic the Hedgehog, there's another song of Sonic the Hedgehog. I said Fantasy Island for me. Somebody called Philippa Dotters was the first person to say Parasite. To which I said, I think
Ooh.
I was like, I think you won the final pre-lockdown film lottery. because obviously it was a lottery and nobody knew what films it was going to be. You did not know this was the last one you were going to see in the cinema for like, what, 3 months? 4? Going on 4 now?
Yeah.
Yeah. She said she saw Parasite. Somebody said it was a while, but Downton Abbey, The Invisible Man. Hey, Sean, The Invisible Man, your friend.
The Invisible Man. Oh, yeah. My favourite rant.
Your favorite, yeah.
Well, not my favourite. One of them.
Let's say it's probably your most recent rant. It's
recent rant. Yeah, that's probably a recent rant.
It's probably your most recent rant. So Jumanji 2, which I think we liked. Another lady says
we did.
Another lady says Parasite, and now, sure, this is where it starts coming to the people who align with what we saw. So this person says Bloodshot.
Right.
They said the last one they
Any
saw.
comment?
All they say is Bloodshot. There's a guy called Jay Hart. He says Bloodshot. I bought a ticket to see The Invisible Man the next day, but the theaters closed. To which I just to which
He had a lucky escape then, if Sean is to be believed.
Well, it is like, okay, I would rather see The Invisible Man than Bloodshot. So it's okay. Then there's a guy who says Sonic, and there's a guy called Orson Begg says Parasite for him to accept the black and white version.
Oh.
Exactly my reaction. That was my reaction. I had to reply in capitals. There was a black and white version. How did I not know this? And he says that he wasn't aware about it. He said I wasn't aware until I was in the cinema. I think it was released to coincide with the run up to the award ceremonies. He has yet to see the color version, but watching it, especially in the dark tones, with all the dark tones and blood, was like watching Schindler's List. It was very fitting. And somebody says, Sean, I know I've already told you that this is like one of my great. I'm happy this film is coming back in audience at least, because Cineworlds are chickens. So in audience at least. It says Onward. Onward was the last one that he saw.
Onward.
Yeah.
But I liked Onward too, because I managed to catch Onward. So I think I reviewed that as liking that, didn't I?
Yeah. We both liked that one. And okay, someone says 1917. They were about to book A Quiet Place 2, but then it all went wrong. Which I can agree with.
Boy, did it go wrong.
Yeah, boy, it did. Yeah, boy, did it go wrong. And somebody said, so I think quite a few people replied to that saying Quiet Place 2. Yeah, they wanted to see that. Someone says Joker, Star Wars Episode 9. And I restrained myself from saying something about that. I'm going into another rant. 1917, Terminator Dark Fate, Sonic, Bad Boys for Life. We like that. Jumanji The Next Level, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood was the last one that this person saw. I think there's people in America as well who saw this. Birds of Prey, Onward, The Invisible Man. Oh, somebody says Angrazi Medium, the last film to star Irfan Khan, and it was a Bollywood film. Saw it on my 26th birthday on the 14th of March. I think somebody's a bit cultured, don't you?
Yeah.
I think somebody's that was Michael Foley. I think he's a bit cultured. So Kevin Dean Schroeder says 1917. Somebody Sean, The Hunt.
The Hunt. Oh, see, yeah, we like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
A couple of people said The Hunt. A couple of people put The Hunt down. The Banana Split movie, 1917. Joker. The Hunt. It was awesome, but I won't be going back to cinemas anytime soon. says Craig Norrie. At Sharon, we have somebody who's with you. We have someone who.
I was wondering if there anyone else out there who'd seen Military Wives.
Oh, sorry, no. I think it's
Emma.
It's Emma. Yes.
Emma. I liked Emma as well. Yeah, that's my second to last one.
Yeah, there is no Military Wives on this list. There's no Military. Someone else says Onward was the last one I saw in theater. Onward, The Hunt. I kind of liked it. 1917, and to 1917, a guy called Sandeep Malhotra. Yeah, I think I've pronounced that right. Says, I'm so glad I caught that in the cinema. I can't imagine going back for a long, long time. And that was an amazing experience on the big screen. I think I would agree with that. I think 1917 is one of those films that you look at it and you go, yep, this is why you have big screens. This is why you have big screens. This is why you have surround sound. My Spy, The Invisible Man, yay. The Gentleman. Yeah, I think
the Guy Ritchie film.
the Guy Ritchie film with
Yeah, that's the Guy Ritchie film. Yeah.
a lot of Invisible Man. We're getting a lot of Invisible Man. Someone says, Sandra Malotra again says, Parasite. It was the second time. He says, I don't believe in God, but I think that was some kind of divine intervention. That the last film he saw was Parasite, because as we say, with my Fantasy Island.
Fantasy Island.
Yeah, Sean with his Bloodshot. It's kind of like there's a guy called Anthony Knight. He says it was his own premiere. It was a film that he starred in, that he saw at a film festival. It was the last thing he saw in the cinema. The Gentleman, great film. This is somebody whose pain is a guy called Bill Boswell, and I have to say I totally feel this guy's pain. He says part of the reason I really want to go back is because at present my last film at the cinema was Blumhouse's Fantasy Island.
Oh wow.
He says, and I replied saying, same here, not a good note to end the film watching year on. He goes, absolutely agree. Okay, so Charlatan by Agnieszka Holland at the Berlinale. Art house, I think, because I never heard of that, by someone called Carla B. Gutman. Sonic the Hedgehog. He did book to see Sean, this is someone else who was like on the line with you. He says, I did book to see an unlimited screening for the pilot episode of The Mandalorian, but I was convinced not to go that day because my dad was worried I would get infected.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it would have been his final date. And another guy, Jack Carter, says Star Wars 9, sad face. To which I replied, yeah. Fantasy Island, Spies in Disguise, Halloween, 1917, The Invisible Man, The Lighthouse, ha! That's literally what this person has written. What was it called? Malia T. She was like, The Lighthouse, ha! 1917, Star Wars. I'm in America, so I hope I can still participate in this. This song called Zach McBride. I saw Emma in the theaters here 2 weeks before lockdown. Somebody whose last film they say the theater, so I'm guessing they're in America, and they say theater and they spell it with a T-E-R at the end.
Instead of an R-E.
Yeah, instead of an R-E. We'll allow it. You're a film fan. We'll allow it. She says, well, I'm in the USA, but the last movie I saw in the theater was Judy.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of Sonic. Sonic shows up again. The Hunt, Sonic, The Hunt, Invisible Man, Onward, Captain Marvel. To which I was like,
whoa.
Yeah, I was like, wait, Captain Marvel? What the heck?
That's a while.
You haven't seen anything for that long?
I was like, yeah, and this person didn't. He did not answer my follow-on question, which was, why haven't you seen anything since? It's like, what happened? Did you go?
There's been a few out there.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
Did you go into lockdown like a year early? What happened? I mean, I don't understand why you would not have seen a film since then. Tokyo Godfathers, Birds of Prey, and this person says, Akash Bahan says, Birds of Prey, a mediocre end to the cinema experience. I don't know about that. I kind of liked Birds of Prey. But
yeah, it was. I don't know. No, I can't remember. No, I don't think I did actually. Did I? Much? No, I didn't like it. I don't think.
Yeah. I thought it was all right. So onward. Someone says they've watched the Out of Joker about 10 times. It ran so long at this local cinema, so I think that they were a bit of a Joker fan. Somebody says, I've honestly forgotten what the last thing I saw was. Sonic,
is that good?
Sonic the Lodge, Sonic Underwater, Joker, The Spy, My Spy, which was that film with David Bautista. It was essentially about David Bautista doing his kindergarten.
Yes. Yeah.
It seems like it's him doing the kindergarten cop, and I didn't see that. And sadly, it was The Lodge, Fantasy Island. Oh my God! So 1917. There's a lot of 1917, and someone. I think someone called Antonio Polanco. Antonio Polanco says Le Homme Invisible, which I'm guessing is what they call the Invisible Man in France, probably.
The Invisible Man. Yeah.
Yep. And that's it. Someone says, "Dude, where's my car?" How do you?
Hey? What? Cinema?
Yeah, I know.
So he's had a 20-year fallow spell then of not going for cinema.
Well, I'm guessing if you watch Dude, Where's My Car in the cinema, that might be enough to put somebody off for 20 years. It might
Yeah,
just
I'm not gonna. Yeah.
it might just be. And someone says Harley Quinn. So I just thought it was funny seeing the films that people had seen the last thing, because this is one of the questions that we ask people when they come onto the show as for the interview, which leads us on to the interview today. Now, I think this interview has to come with a little bit of a disclaimer or a little bit of a caveat, saying that we tried our best in this interview to present you with a glossary of terms that we used, because this interview was with my cousin, who is also called Tosin. So through you'll hear in our whole lives how we've gone through and how we've differentiated who's who. But there's bits of it where we go not just very Nigerian, but we go very Yoruba, and we start using terms that we use and I know Sharon, Sean, you guys have you've heard the interview. I'm not sure how well we did in stopping every now and then and going, okay, hang on, we've just used the term, we need to do this. We need to do some cultural glossary terms, some cultural explanation of what that word means. I'm not sure how well we did in that. What do you guys think?
I think you did very well. I think a few terms. Yeah, I think you did say, "Hang on, what is that? What have I just said there that people don't understand?" So yeah, I think you did very well.
I did. Yeah, I thought you did well. How long ago was it since you saw him, Tosin? Actually, to meet him, has it been a while? Or
the last time I saw Tosin was in February. He came down to Denver.
So your birthday?
Yeah, he came down to Denver for my birthday thing. So yeah, the last time I saw was then. So we haven't seen each other for a while, but it's kind of like it's one of those things where you have a friend and you don't see them for ages, but then you meet up and it's like you saw each other yesterday. Yeah. That's the way it's always been with us. Like I think there's probably like a period of almost a decade where we didn't see each other, and it was like no time passed. He's just we're just that close. So with that caveat, this is probably one of my favorite interviews that I've done so far, because in this one we got to answer. I mean, Sean, Sharon, you guys have heard me talk about how there were no cinemas in Nigeria growing up. And he, unfortunately, when cinemas came back to Nigeria, I had left, and he was still there, and he gets to give us almost like a sort of ground level view of what impact cinema had to Nigeria when cinema came back, and what it meant to people and how people reacted to it. And I absolutely love that. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you now to Tosin, for joining us on the Netflix versus Cinema podcast interview. Now, so I am speaking to Tosin Ogunlesi. Now, Tosin, people who listen to the podcast will realize that we have the same name. We have the same first name. And the fact that we've known each other, I think I'm pretty sure since I was 5 and you were 3.
Yeah.
It means that
I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. We've pretty much spent our entire lives being called Tosin O and Tosin A.
True.
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether you've been listening to any other episodes of the podcast yet. Have you been listening to Edgar's and seen what we've been doing during this lockdown period?
I've listened to a few, but I must confess I have not listened to the more recent ones. My bad, Tosin A.
No problem. Just in case anybody was wondering who is Tosin A and who's Tosin O, I am Tosin A. Exactly. I am Tosin A. He's Tosin O. So
the original Tosin. You forgot to mention that.
I was gonna let that slide. I was gonna let that slide, but as a very very good aburo, you have pointed it out and you're giving me the steps. So for anybody who wonders what the heck was that word I just used said aburo, which is a Yoruba word, which is the tribe we come from in Nigeria. It's a Yoruba word that means younger, like the younger sibling. Yeah.
Younger brother, younger cousin, younger sibling.
Yeah, younger sister. So aburo is egbon, means older one. So it's like, say like, Tosin has just been a very good aburo, and he's G'd up my.
Thank you, egbon.
Thank you very much. Egbon means older one. You've sort of massaged my ego like a good Yoruba boy should. You massaged the older person's ego.
No, you know those rules come with reciprocations. The younger massages the older's ego, and the ego embellishes him with funds.
Wait, yeah. That's only if the older one has funds. That's only if the older one has funds. Otherwise, the older one just sort of like, reciprocates with abuse. So, okay. Anyway, what we've been doing on the podcast so far. So during this, is obviously the show is called Netflix versus Cinema, and I always try and do this in case anybody's listening to this. In case this is the first episode they've listened to, we usually would go to the cinema and see 3 films in a week. Between me, Sean, and Sharon, we would usually see at least 3 films a week. Some days Sean goes beast mode and he sees like 5. But and
expected.
Yeah, and
I don't know Sean, but
well,
any movie buff.
Let's put it this way: Sean is a man who has a Cineworld Unlimited card, and Cineworld at the end of last year sent him an email to say how many films he had seen that year. He had seen 150.
Okay.
I mean,
he could do better, but okay.
Wait, look at that. That's an average of 3 a week in the cinema. So,
I mean, talk about value for money, right?
Exactly.
How much is that card?
That card
I think it's about 15 quid?
$17.99 a month.
$17.99, and a movie costs about £7 nowadays.
Exactly.
£6, £7.
Exactly.
So, okay. I mean, he's meeting. How many? What did you say? 3 movies a day?
No, 3 movies a
week.
3 movies a week. So 52 weeks in a year. He saw 150 movies.
Okay. So if we're doing, so that's 3. If you watch 3 movies a month, you would have paid for the card. He has surpassed that by 4 times.
Let's just say that Sean knows how to make something a bargain. So,
okay.
So usually we would see 3 things.
He must be Jebu.
It was okay. Okay, you see now, this is we're going to spend this entire interview explaining everything that we're saying. Explaining all the. I think we're going to have to send this podcast out with like a glossary to explain all the terms we're using. So
that's it. All right, cool.
Okay, so he just said
Ijebu.
So Tosin just said Ijebu. So Tosin Og just said Ijebu. Now, Ijebu is a tribe that I come from, and I believe that you have some Ijebu in your family.
My mom.
Yeah, your mom.
My mom, yeah.
Your mom is she has Liberian in her family tree, but also Ijebu.
Yeah.
So we both come from the Yoruba tribe. And the part of the tribe that we come from is Ijebu. It's called Ijebu, and we are known for being stingy. We are known for.
Actually, we're very prudent with spending.
Yeah, some people say prudent. Some people, essentially, some people say prudent. Some people say stingy. The long and short of it is that we do not like money leaving our pockets.
Money doesn't go out.
and if money goes out, we're going to make sure that money stretches as far as it possibly can until it's begging for mercy.
Let's explain a different way. Basically, money is on a timeout. Money is grounded in the Ijebu household. You're not going anywhere till graduation. And even when you get to graduation, you're coming back to this house and paying rent. That's how money works. His money was a student.
That is pretty accurate. That's pretty. So Sean, I know you're going to listen to this at some point. Sean, congratulations. We have made you an honorary Ijebu man based on your cinema usage. Anyway.
Boom, done.
Yeah, so that's it. Sean is an honorary Ijebu man. I know. So people sort of like, yes. And you're living in Scotland, and I know that whenever I explain what Ijebu means to some people in England, they go, "Oh, that's like a Scotsman," which is something that which. I'm not sure how the Scots people will feel about that.
No, actually, it's a thing. So in Edinburgh, they actually pride themselves for being. I don't know. Actually, let me not misquote the Edinburgh culture. I'm not sure.
I'm not
sure.
All I know is that I know every single Ijebu man prides himself on that, and I know that when we were in school, it got me out of buying, like, usually girls a drink from a tuck shop or something like that. because
it's against my culture.
pretty much. You know when you get to that point
I was
where
brought up that way.
you know when you get to that point where boys and girls start noticing each other, and like girls are like, "Yeah, come on, yeah, buy me a drink or buy me an Africola or something like that." Africola, a brand of cola that we had in Nigeria, and it's like buy me Africola or something. And I'll just say, "I'm sorry, I'm Ijebu," and they would stop bothering me.
Because the return on their investment of time
is not good. They know this is going nowhere. Going nowhere. All right. Nowhere. So we keep getting sidetracked. Thank you for being a victim, if you want to call it that, interviewee on this episode.
You're very much welcome. I was actually looking forward to it. And I'll insert disclaimer here.
Yeah,
I like film, but I'm nowhere near the likes of Sean, yourself, and the other lovely lady,
Sharon.
Oh, jeez, I forgot her name. Karen.
Sharon. Yeah.
There you go. How's that for forgetting people's names and then mispronouncing it all in the same sentence? but I'm no way an aficionado. Or film buff like you guys. So disclaimer notice, but I do like movies, so let's do it.
Yeah, that's no point. So let's kick off with what is the first film you ever saw at a cinema?
Okay, so I need a backstory to this, right?
Go ahead.
Lagos, Nigeria, like yourself, same area you grew up in. I think cinemas only came to Nigeria around early 2000s, yes.
And sounds about right.
Was called, Silverbird Cinemas, and in Ikoyi, where you used to live, where we used to live.
Yeah.
And to cast my mind back that far, I think it was the first Transformers movie.
Oh, all right.
Now let's date it. When was the first Transformers movie?
The first Transformers movie. I'm just having a quick search to try.
Is either that or 300? One of the two. So I just need to date the two, and then we can nail it on the head.
Okay, so let's have a look at this. The first Transformers, 2007, was the first.
Nope.
Was the first Transformers movie.
Too late. It was probably 300.
300 was released in 2007.
You see, I knew what I was doing. Jeez, cut out.
Well, okay, 300 was also released in 2000. It was released 2006 in America, 2007 over here. So,
okay. So, let's do 300.
Okay, so, but let's talk a little bit about what you were saying, because but by this time, what age were you at, when you saw this? The first time you actually got to go to a cinema?
Okay, assuming it was 2007. It was probably earlier than that, probably around 2003.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, a bit of math here, -7, 31.
21.
Right? 31.
31.
Hang on a minute. Why 2020?
It would have been 21. It would have been 2000. It would have been 21.
Yes, 21. Of course, I was just testing you today. Fine.
So
your math is excellent.
So well, yeah. It's I'm lucky enough to have been born in 1980. So for me, whenever I try to figure out what age I was in a year,
it's round.
I just take the first number of the year and the last number, and that
subtract. Yeah, good.
So right until 2010, that's all I had to do was like, how old was I in 2007? 27. So
what you're doing there?
Yeah, so it's always been quite easy for me. So with that, okay, so you said so you were 21, and I think for a lot of people who might be listening, a lot of people in the UK, it's a bit weird that you don't get to see a film until you're 21 in a cinema. And so you were mentioning a little bit about growing up in Nigeria and there not being cinemas. And I remember, because you used to stay with us, you mentioned Ikoyi, which was the area of Lagos that we lived in. and we would travel from there, from the island to the mainland every day to go to school. And we used to drive past this big building and it said Casino Cinema at the top of it.
Yeah.
It used to say
Penn Cinema.
What?
It was Penn Cinema.
It was called Casino Cinema while I was there, and I think it might have changed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was because I left Nigeria in 1996.
Ah, okay, I see.
Yeah, so
I see.
So it might have, and that was just a building that it just seemed like it was into disrepair, because I think there used to be a cinema, like a thriving cinema thing, probably in the 70s in Nigeria, and for some reason it just died as problems grew in the country, as we ended up with military dictatorship after military dictatorship. It just died, and then, but after I left, cinema started coming back to Nigeria. So you were still in Nigeria when they came back. So what was it like when you said Silverbird Cinemas? What was it like when Silverbird said we're opening a cinema? What was the buzz like in Lagos at that time?
It was because, so if you think about Lagos, there's a lot of, it's separated into different classes, right?
Yeah.
So should I say upper middle class?
Yep.
Might have traveled outside the country, so they recognized what cinemas were, and the buzz was out of this world. Like lines around the building. Literally, it was opened up in a mall, so people would just go there just to hang out.
Yeah,
and tickets were sold out in minutes. And it was the place to go pick up. I mean, not pick up. It was the place to go and hang out. You wear your really nice clothes, Timberland boots, jeans, new T-shirts from America or the UK if you had relatives there, and you just went to hang out there, or if you took a girl there or a young lady to go and impress her. It was the place. After, I think, so it opened in 2004, so there's no way I could have watched that movie in 2003. So I was probably 22, 23 when I saw my first movie there.
Yeah.
And, like I said, the buzz was amazing, was great. I'm sure they made loads of money. It was on 3 floors. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, when I was working at the time, I'd already started working because I just graduated from uni, done something called National Youth Service, which is a compulsory year of service after you graduate from university.
Yeah,
it's like the equivalent of the military training that
they have in South Korea and stuff.
Yeah. And after I remember my office was quite close to the cinema, so it was about a 10-minute drive from the cinema, and Lagos is divided into the mainland and the island by the longest bridge in West Africa. It's called the Third Mainland Bridge. Oh. And I remember having friends who lived on the mainland, and I used to work on the island, right? So a favorite pastime would be after work, we'd go see a movie, right? So I was the project manager of this group of friends, I could not miss the trailers. I could not miss the previews. So I'm telling friends, okay, guys, are we doing this? And this was way before WhatsApp.
Yeah.
So you had to actually call your friends, and mobile phones had just landed in Nigeria as well.
Yeah.
I think 3 years before, and you had to call them. Another friend who had to call another friend. Oh, I have to check with this person. Oh, I'm bringing my girlfriend. Oh, I have to. I was like, guys. I do not have time for this. The movie starts at 7. I'm going to be there at 6:30 with everyone's tickets. In fact, I'll be there with my ticket. If you don't send money to buy your ticket, I'll see you later. Well, that's it. I have been famed for going to movies at like 10 a.m. In fact, I actually enjoy that time, either 10 a.m. or like 12 midnight. You know how movies come out the day before, and you can see the first showing like in
midnight, like 5 minutes past midnight or something.
Me. I just pretend I'm in my own house in the middle seat, right in the middle, and pretend like I have a cinema in my house, and I just watch it by myself. People thought I was weird. I don't care. That's their problem, not mine. So I've given up my friends for cinema. I've given up relationships for cinema. And I dare say I've been dubbed a weirdo for watching movies alone because I don't understand how people can't understand how watching a movie alone is very therapeutic. I don't get it.
Okay, all right.
So it was a great experience. Yeah.
Okay, so all right. There's so many questions kicking off. I'm gonna try and keep this thing online, but there's so many questions kicking off in my mind right now. Okay, there's people who, as you said, there were people who had a chance to travel abroad out of Nigeria at that time, had seen cinemas in other countries, and so when cinemas came to Nigeria, they were like I can imagine that if I was in Nigeria at that time and cinemas, I would have been out of my mind. And but before that, obviously we had the video stores, and you'd go and you rent videos and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, that's another era.
That I know that's another era that we can only touch on here because we're trying to keep this into half an hour. We could go on for an hour about video mat and mega movies and all that. We could go on for an hour about those places. So when you went, whatever the first film it was that you went to see in an actual cinema compared to what you'd seen in video or at home and all that, what was it like, the difference between seeing something at home that you've been watching all these films all this time and seeing something in the cinema? What was the difference like for you?
I mean, come on, if you're comparing a screen, I mean, we used to use there was a cathode ray TVs at that time, so like 75-inch. If you had a 75-inch cathode ray television at that point in time,
you were a millionaire.
You're probably the son of a governor or some ex-dictator's cousin.
Yeah.
But yeah,
because
those of television.
Because you didn't really have plasma screens or LCDs at that time.
No LEDs, no QEDs, QLEDs, and all that. No, it was cathode ray, and you were looking at maybe a screen size of maybe 17 or 21. Max, an upper middle class living room. Sometimes locked up. So I think it's two things, right, with the cinematic experience. It's sound and visuals, right?
Okay,
so, first of all, the thing that hits you is size of the screen, and next thing, and when the movie starts, the thing that hits you is surround sound. I think there's a difference between surround, stereo, and mono. Yeah, before we get too technical. But I think it's those things, right? You kind of get in your living room watching a film, it's not blacked out like the cinema is. So there's still a feeling of, reality is happening behind you. Mom says, will you pause that television and come and help me pick this Ewedu? Cultural reference.
Okay, cultural reference. Ewedu. I actually found out what the sort of like scientific name for Ewedu was. I found out that it's something that they eat, especially in the Middle East. They have they have a name for it. Like, I have a Middle Eastern friend who she's Palestinian, and when she found out that about Ewedu, she was like, "Oh my God, we have that too. That's blah blah blah." And she called it some other name. I was like, "What are you talking about?" No, it's Ewedu. And so Ewedu is like it's like a leaf that I think is in the same family as spinach. I think it's in the same family.
I thought it was like mint, the same part of the family as mint, but I'm not sure.
I think spinach and mint might be in the same family, but it's in that sort of that sort of family. You don't get it that much over here, but apparently in the Middle East and in across Africa, you do get it. So Ewedu, that's it. Now, okay, now we've done the glossary thing for that. So Mum says, "Come help me cut this Ewedu."
Yeah, come help me pick this Ewedu, which is come help me in the kitchen to cook, and then if you have to pause the movie, go help, come back, and by the time you come back, our National Electric Power Authority decides to cut electricity. So NEPA, as we like to call it, only takes light, and and then you can't continue watching your movie. The cassette tape is stuck in the VHS player.
Because there's no electricity to eject it, yeah.
Yeah, you can't find other ways to occupy your time. Cut to the future, we've got laptops, so that problem of power cuts is not there. Of course, the problem of mom calling you never goes away.
Yeah.
You need to leave the house for that to happen. And then, cut to cinemas. there's first of all, there's nothing else happening around you. Everyone is there for one objective only. That is to watch movies for the next hour and a half, right? So you know that there's no outside interference, and then of course surround sound, the size of the screen. I think IMAX came a bit later, but yeah, I think those are two key differences, right? You cut away from any distractions, and I think sound is a really key aspect. Sound and visuals, obviously very different.
Oh, okay, cool. So did you? Was it like a come to Jesus moment when people actually came? You know, when people got into a cinema in the first time and they were sat down there and it was like, they used to have the whole old THX thing on.
Was it? Yeah, I love that. By the way, that sound effect it gives me goosebumps. And the other one that gives me goosebumps is the one that Cineworld did. You know, when they go vroom doom, and it's as if the screen is a heartbeat. It is amazing. It's amazing. Anyway,
so
moment.
So yeah, for people in Lagos, was it like a come to Jesus moment when that happened? Was it like, oh my God, all my life I have been blind and now I can see?
I would answer that question by describing a moment in cinema, in Nigerian cinema. There's a key difference between cinema here and cinema in Nigeria. The key difference is commentary. So everyone you're watching with is commenting and making noises about what's going on the movie, right? So imagine this Michael Bay explosion. Everybody, and then the hero jumps off a building and parachutes and lands at the same time onto a moving car. Everyone goes, oh, starts. Next thing you hear is a round of applause. And you hear people like, oh my goodness, oh shit. Cultural reference.
Oshe means thank you in Yoruba, yeah.
Like, and it's like, wow. It's like, wow. Did you see that? And everybody's clapping for the next maybe 10 seconds. Everybody dies down. Movie's still playing. And you get that running commentary throughout the entire movie. Imagine if it was a drama or it was a romantic comedy where a husband is cheating on a wife. Someone might just mistakenly say, stop loving him, or you're going to be stupid if you go back to him, or just general subtitling in real time. It should be a thing, subtitling movies and commentary in real time, and that is something you actually miss when you are here watching movies, especially if it's like an action movie and some stuntman does a crazy acrobatic or something, and no one says, oh shit. You're like, oh man, I'm not feeling like I should. And it's literally, that's the feeling Nigerians have when they started watching movies in the cinema. Literally, it's like that. It's like your mom trying to ask you questions every time you're watching in the movie. Like, so did he was he married to that guy's mom? I don't know. We are both watching the same movie. I think we'll need to watch a bit more and stop talking. Slap to find out. The slap was a cultural reference, but it's in English.
Yes.
Always respect your parents. I never talk back to them.
Yeah, don't talk back to your parents. Don't talk about your parents, or they'll give you something to talk about. Okay. All right. Cool. Good stuff. And so for one final question on this before we move on.
Okay.
So this is obviously for you, for somebody like you who you said that you've given up relationships for cinema, you've given up friendships for cinema, all that. But for the average person, so you were talking about people who are trying to meet somebody who they're hoping to go out with or something like that. For the boys, it's trying to take a girl out to the cinema. What do you think it was like having this cinema as this thing to go to now?
Today?
No. Then.
When it got launched.
When it got launched in Nigeria.
Yeah. Like, what do you mean? Like, how did it change the dating scene?
Yeah. Let's go with that. Like, I mean, it's like for them, was it a come to Jesus thing as well, or was that just for people who had been like, oh my God, I've been wanting to watch a film on uninterrupted for 21 years of my life.
Actually, it was a double-edged sword because I think movie tickets at that time were $1,500 naira, which is the equivalent. Yeah, I don't know what the equivalent of that is. And depending on the show,
nowadays it'll probably be about £3-4.
Yeah, much more. Yeah, much more. Yeah. But depending on the showing, I think you paid a little higher.
Okay.
I think. So double-edged sword in that, yes, it was the go-to default place, or actually, default place to take a lady out for a movie if you wanted to impress her, and then maybe food afterwards or beforehand. But then you had to shell out cash, so it's just another for the Jebu guys, the Jebu men in society was just another channel to spend money on things that are not yourself. I mean, popcorn was there, drinks, the usual, actually, not too different from here in terms of food.
Yeah, they pretty much just copied the template.
Yeah, copy template. The cinema was on the top floor, and on first and ground floors you had stores and retail spaces, and places for kids to play. So it was almost like a family mall, and with cinema screens at the top of it. So in terms of I guess for the dating scene, mostly teenagers, young adults. I can't remember.
Okay.
Did I?
Yeah.
Friends. I was thinking of any personal stories from Friends, but they're all probably too stingy to.
They're only Jabu.
I mean, I don't know what that says about me though, because show me your friends and I'll show you.
Okay, so because this is one of the things that absolutely it fascinates me, the cultural impact of film and what film does to a culture, and especially somewhere like Nigeria where you'd had all these things. So, good Lord. Okay, you've pretty much covered why cinema and why cinema is so great in everything that you said. Yeah. So I'm not gonna ask you that question just so you don't repeat yourself. But so we had cinemas appeared in Nigeria, and this is the bit I'm going to talk about. Like, we at the moment we have things like the protests happening in the place where Agogo, your wife, comes from, Maryland. There's a lot of protests happening there about George Floyd, and so it started off this big conversation about worldwide as to what are essentially race relations, because it's not just white Americans or black Americans. I personally think it stems from the way Europe has viewed Africa, and I think that's where it stems from, and a bit of that ends up with how Africans have seen themselves. So obviously, when cinema started off back in Nigeria in the 2000s, you would have a lot of imports from America, and it would be like, let's go see the American film because that's right. But at the same time, we have Nollywood, which is the most prolific. So the Nigerian film industry, which is the most prolific film industry in the world. We make the most films every single year. Doesn't mean that they're good, but we make the most films. So
it's all about volume, man.
It's all about quality. Who cares about quality? Are people still watching it? Yeah, then why do we have to make it better? Man.
Having said that, there are a percentage of really good producers, directors, and filmmakers who still produce very quality work. I think so. Especially nowadays, there's a company called Ink Blood Productions that's doing some good stuff that I'm looking at going, that's what I should be doing. But how long was it before Nigerian movies started showing up in the cinema? Or was it seen for a while as, oh, no. Nigerian movies, you go get that on your 4 videotapes down at the market. But the cinema is for the proper stuff from America. I don't actually remember. I think it was from probably about 2 years after it launched. Because I remember it didn't take time for Nollywood movies to show up.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, cool. That's good to know.
It wasn't too long. Yeah, and I think it was a good thing, because Nollywood movies are very popular across not just Nigeria but West Africa, Central Africa. People like I was speaking to a friend 2 weeks ago. He stays here in Edinburgh. He's Nigerian as well, grew up in Nigeria. And he said he met this Italian lady. And she was talking about, was it Italian? I'm not sure. Italian or from one of the Asian countries. I can't remember. And she was so excited when she met him, and he said he grew up in Lagos. She was like, have you watched this movie and that movie and this movie? And because okay, I'm going to segue here. Majority of Nigerian movies that are not done properly, I have this favorite phrase that, if you watch it long enough, your IQ will drop. So, he has the. You're laughing, just this is a true story, man. If you put two kids, one watching non-Nollywood movies, I'm not doing Nigeria a service here, but this is to the low quality ones.
Majority of the Nollywood films, yes. I know what you're saying, because to be honest with you, there's like
we need to balance the narrative.
Yeah, I know. To be honest with you, I know what you're talking about. That there's a channel on Sky TV, which is Nollywood TV. And I can't watch that channel. Like majority of the Nollywood films, I can't watch them because you're talking about sayings. And I know that we had a saying back in Nigeria that everybody loves to watch a madman except his own family.
Exactly.
And for me, I'm like, no, it's too embarrassing. We are better. We are better than this.
Exactly.
And if anybody is listening to this wondering what the heck are they talking about, go to someone who has Sky TV, find Nollywood TV, and watch it for 5 minutes. And watch it for 5 minutes. Thankfully, things are getting better, and people are beginning to go.
On the flip side, there are a lot of web TV channels now, Red TV and Danny TV, who produce very good web series content, episodes. Iroko TV is trying to do the same as well. This is like the Nollywood of Nigeria. Go to Netflix and check for some Nigerian movies as well.
The Wedding Party,
quality ones. Wedding Party. What was that one? Merry Men. Some really good ones out there as well. So.
Where were you? Well, that is, I think essentially you were talking about the fact that I think I cut you off when you were talking about if you watch too many Nollywood movies after a while, your IQ will drop.
Exactly.
But I think it's one of the things when I look at because if we're going to talk about the way the world is at the moment and how Europe has related to Africa, and essentially, but I think for me, how Africa has viewed itself. And I think Nollywood is one of those things that is going to show how Africa is beginning to view itself. And I think it's what happened in other areas of the world. If you go back to the original films that were made in Hollywood, there was a lot of rubbish. And it was after a while, and it was after a while that they started saying, you know what, we can do better than this, and then they started getting better. And I feel like this is the same thing that's happening, where people are beginning to go, we produce a lot of rubbish, and then we go, you know what, we are beginning to view ourselves better, and we're beginning to view ourselves in that we can do better than this.
and a key contribution to that is the fact that it's a thing in our culture to get formally educated outside Nigeria.
Yes.
So what you have in our generation is that we've got a lot of professionals who were trained outside Nigeria who now live in Nigeria. So my very good friend Abiola Shobo, he's now running Source Productions, and he's schooled in New York Film Academy in Abu Dhabi. His friend Chuka Ejo, trained in South Africa. So there's a crop of directors, filmmakers, sound engineers, post editing, all the good professional stuff that's being done outside the country, Hollywood, that is now being brought, skill sets being brought into the country. So the output of that and the outcome over time, I think, will improve the quality of films that get produced.
Yeah, I think especially when you add like a Nigerian aspect to it, I think it will bring something that people haven't seen in film for a long time. And also, by the way, hook your Egbon up. What's going on, man? But
with the industry, of course.
Yeah. Okay, but anyway, I didn't realize we're having I didn't realize we're having a budding film mogul on the podcast. Okay, so now let's fast forward and let's see if we can fast forward through the rest of the interview. So let's fast forward. So now we've gone forward all these years. You have moved from Lagos, Nigeria. You are now living in Edinburgh, Scotland, and you have your Cineworld Unlimited card. It is 2020. You managed to see a film, and you might not even realize at that time that that's the final film you're going to see for a long time. What was the final film that you actually saw before lockdown was announced and cinemas had to close?
Jeez, I have to think. I probably went to see it with the wife. Agogo will probably remember this because she has an exceptionally good memory, which is not good for fights, but that's a different conversation. I would say it was, wasn't Get Out, was it? No.
Yeah, Get Out
was Get Out.
Get Out was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't Get Out. It was probably a Marvel movie. One of the new ones.
Well, the last one would have been Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Far From Home. Was it that one? Don't know. Let me come back to you on that one.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'll tell you what. You can send me a text and I'll mention it on the podcast. I'll mention it what the film actually was.
Meanwhile, I'll send the wife a WhatsApp message and ask her.
And the final question is: what are you most looking forward to seeing when cinemas reopen?
Tenet.
Oh, Tenet. All right, cool. So is that what you're a big Christopher Nolan fan?
Oh man, I was. Let's put it this way: I was a fan of his movies before I found out who he was. And all the other stuff he did. Yeah. I think. Yeah.
What was the first one? What was the first one you saw?
Was it Batman?
Okay, Batman Begins.
I've probably seen an earlier one, but I didn't realize he was the one who directed it.
Okay.
He also did. I saw a recent one he did. What's that one? The Magicians.
Oh, The Prestige.
Prestige. That was an awesome movie.
Yeah.
With Christian Bale and
Hugh Jackman. Yeah.
Look at me quoting actor names.
Don't worry.
Let's end the podcast now.
We'll make you a film buff yet. So Tenet, which is the film that they seem to want to relaunch cinemas with. So they're talking about opening them up mid-July, and they're talking about Tenet being the big one.
So basically, I need to buy my tickets now.
Well, once they announce that they're going to open up cinemas again, but quite frankly, I think especially with social distancing and everything like that, I think you're onto a winner with the 10 o'clock in the morning viewings.
Yep.
Because I think they might have more viewings in cinemas and more spread out so that you can go at different times, and then that way you don't have to be worried about a whole bunch of people being around you.
True.
But having said that,
do you know any movie called Waves?
I've heard of this film called Waves. Yeah, I think it was directed by a Senegalese director, wasn't it?
I don't know, but apparently that's the last one we watched before COVID.
Oh,
I just got the message back from Agogo.
Oh, you got to see Waves. Yes, I think that's actually on Netflix now. I've heard good things about it. I've heard good things about it.
Is it a social commentary?
I haven't. Well, I think it is, because what I remember it's directed by a Senegalese director, and it has to do with something. Well, I'm not going to quote something that I'm not sure of, but it essentially has to. I think part of it is set in Senegal.
It has to do with something.
Part of it is set in Senegal, and I think it will be hard to set a film in Senegal without having some social commentary. So.
The epic emotional journey of a suburban African-American family as they navigate love, forgiveness, and coming together in the wake of a tragic loss.
Okay. Then I'm going to have a look at that. Yeah. All right. So I think that's it. I think I've taken up about half an hour of your time. Oh, good Lord. More like 40 minutes. I
enjoyed every minute.
This is the problem with the podcast interviews. Each time I get into them, and you just start chatting, and you start realizing that there's more stuff to talk about, and you're like, maybe the interviews should be their own podcast. I don't know, but But it's something that we've been thinking about, and we're thinking that even when cinemas reopen, we might still keep doing interviews because it is amazing and it's fascinating seeing people's insights, whether they are film aficionados or whether they just love watching films. And for me, as I say, I always love hearing about the cultural impact that cinema has. And I think something like Nigeria, which has had a recent sort of cinematic revolution, so to say, it is almost a case study of what impact does cinema have when you bring it into a group of people. And thank you so much for being an expert on what happened in Nigeria in the 2000s with that. But once again, Tosin O, thank you very much for being on the show.
Hey, insert a round of applause here. Takes bow. Exit stage left.
All right. Thanks, man. Yes, that was Tosin O, as you have all heard. Tosin O, my cousin. Well, it's one of these weird things that you have, right? And I'm sure that you guys probably have when you have I think it happens a lot more in Nigeria than it does over here, where we're not actually biologically related. But we're not actually biologically related, but the closest thing that we could speak about is that we just say we're cousins because it's easier than trying to explain the fact. We say we're cousins even though we're totally not biologically related. But
I have to say, Tosin.
Yep.
Oh, right. I have to say I'm very honoured. I'm very honoured to be an honorary member of the tribe. And yes, I think I can relate to some of those. I remember in my younger days I was quite a tight ass, people would say, they'd be like, if I ever pulled out my wallet, I would be the typical moths, Yeah. But I think what that come from is when I was younger, I didn't, there wasn't a lot around really.
Yeah.
So, but I can be. I mean, lately I was like really, really mean. I was like a proper old miser. But I think I've started to become. I think I've mellowed a little bit, But I'm certainly pleased to be an honorary member.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was that, Sean?
No, I just said. What was the name of the tribe again?
Well,
I've got to get this right.
So okay, it's the Yoruba tribe. We're Yoruba, but the bit
Yoruba.
of the tribe the bit of the Yorubas that are known for being stingy are the Ijebu.
Ijebu.
Yeah, Ijebu. Yeah, so we said we made you an honorary Ijebu man because,
nice.
because you know how to make a pound work for its money, work for its key. I love some of the stuff that Tosin said. He's kind of like, he said essentially in a Ijebu man's house, money is grounded. Money is grounded. You're not allowed to go anywhere. You're not allowed to go out, which, to be honest with you, is very true. Is very true. And as I said, it did get me out of buying a whole bunch of drinks for a whole bunch of girls at that age where boys started to notice girls and vice versa. So,
yeah, I could.
Yeah, but the thing is, I could go on for ages about the stuff that we spoke about in there because I found it really, really fascinating. But I'll what did you guys think?
Well, it's interesting when you were saying about how you would go in from the island into sort of the main sort of Lagos.
Yes.
Proper, I suppose. And you saw this old cinema, this casino cinema.
Yeah.
So obviously at some point there had been cinema in Nigeria, but it obviously just or disappeared or was just not financially viable anymore for people to get the films in. With all these, you don't call it a junta, do you, in Nigeria? But you had the different sort of military leaderships.
We had the military leaderships, and we never called it. We just said it was military government, and we never called it a dictatorship. Probably because they didn't want to be seen as dictators. But we look back and we go, yeah, it was a dictatorship. But so I think round about the time when the military dictatorship came in at the beginning of the 80s, it was probably round about the time that cinema started disappearing in Nigeria. I don't know because I was born in 1980, so I was totally oblivious to this. I just grew up never seeing cinemas and never knowing what they were. and seeing them on TV and going, oh, that looks cool. Yeah. And maybe reading about it in a book or something like that, but never actually being in a cinema until I was 16. For Tosin, he was a little later on in life before he actually got to see one. And you heard him talk about just what it meant.
Was it 300 or was it Transformers?
Yeah.
But I must admit, they probably would. I can understand how you would get like those murmured, or not murmured reactions, like, "Oh wow, oh applause," when something happens, because I think people sometimes forget that they can do that at home, but you don't do it at the cinema. And sometimes still people do. I've been at the cinema where they was cooking something on the screen, and a woman behind me said, "Oh, that's not cooked right," and I was like, "Yeah." At home, you don't do that in the cinema.
Okay, you see, and this is the thing. I think it's really, really interesting, the cultural differences, because for instance, if I'm in England and if I'm in a majority, honestly speaking, if I'm in England and I'm in a majority white audience watching a film, I expect everybody to be quiet, and I'm like, "What the hell do you think you're doing? Don't even rustle your popcorn. I don't want that." But if I'm in an if I'm in an audience that is majority like Nigerian, just like Tosin says, I'm totally expecting people to be yelling at the screen. I'm totally expecting stuff to be going on, and I'm loving it, and I'm absolutely loving it when that kind of stuff happens. But for me, it's all about the context. If it's majority Nigerians, it's like what Tosin says. It's like he said that he goes to watches a film and nobody says, "Oh wow," or as he says, "Oh shit." Nobody says that, and he kind of goes, "Oh, I kind of wish so."
I want to be able to shout out.
Yeah. What a bit of like interaction, because it's. I just think we think everything is interactive in Nigeria, and when he says that, I was right there in my head. I was right there when I was like, "Oh yeah, I totally understand that." And I think I mentioned it in the cinema. It reminded me of watching Blue Story last year.
Yes.
Yeah, when I watched Blue Story, it shows me that there's something about culture that just carries regardless of what happens. So obviously, when I watched it, there was majority black people and a lot of black people who'd grown up in this country, but they still maintained that thing that had carried on, even though some of them their parents might not even have been like, first generation or anything. That for them,
they're sort of second or third generation.
But they still have that thing where you're like, we're black people, we're from Africa, we talk at the screen. It's quite funny. That's just quite funny. Anything else, Sean, you want to say? Sean, my honorary Jabu man.
Yeah, I was quite interested in. I mean, I like it when hanging out around the area, trying to find girls and stuff. And I was intrigued by that. I've had there's been a couple of times when I've taken girls to the cinema, and I remember once it was like, I thought, I went to see this film. And you used to be able to smoke in the cinemas. You used to be able to have a cigarette. And then if you didn't smoke, you would sit on the right-hand side. In fact, there used to be a little advert that come up and it said, "May we remind you for those patrons who prefer not to smoke, seating areas on the right-hand side of this auditorium has been designated." Anyway, I remember I had this cigarette. I was there and I had my arm around the girl. And I had a cigarette on the go, but I had it the wrong way round. I was sort of holding it sort of with the lighted end towards me, thinking sort of like that. And I stubbed the end, the lit end of the cigarette on my lip. Oh, yes. Right. And I was like, Jesus. I can still remember this now, thinking, and it's throbbing and it's hurting. the little sparkies of ash has gone everywhere. So I put it out and I said, I've got to go to the toilet. I've got to go to the toilet. And there's this big old blister thing on my lip. And I felt, and I'm going like this. I'm like, And she goes, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" So that was really, really embarrassing. So that didn't get very far. That because I was in pain, and I mean I can't even remember the movie, to be honest. I just remember that because I did it quite early. I was being super cool.
Yeah.
Because I used to. I mean, the amazing thing was in the cinemas. I used to have cigarette adverts and drink adverts.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and there's so they. There was a brand called Silk Cut, and they used to do almost Hollywood production commercials
adverts,
with that. I mean, there was adverts, and there's one that is just like basically the film Zulu, and it goes, "Oh, can we interest you in these cigarettes?" "Oh, yes, thank you very much." They're like, the old British chap with the silk cut. "Oh, yes, incredibly much." So I remember that. Yeah. And the other one, I remember going to see one with a girl, and she walked out on me. And it was a film, and I don't know why. It was The Thin Red Line. I remember that film.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was like,
The Terrence
'Cause there's
Malick.
a bit, Terrence Malick, where there's a bit at the beginning where some birds fall out of the tree, and she says, "I'm not watching this," and she got up and went, and I'm like, "What do I do? I want to see you in a line. Do I chase after her? What do I do?" And I was like, I think
I paid for this ticket.
So yeah, so a bit like your cousin, like your cousin.
He's like,
yeah.
he's like he's ended
Stayed and watched the
relationships, ended relationships because of cinema. He's ended friendships because of cinema. Yeah, I was thinking, there is a lot of sort of crossover there. But I think it's funny, you're talking about the fact that there used to be drinks adverts and cigarette adverts in cinemas and all that. And one of the things that gets me, and I don't mean to get all film studies sounding about it, but it's kind of like the cultural impact that cinema has. Like, if you're talking about that, you're talking about the fact that, people used to pay to have their cigarettes in films, and cigarettes had this big boost because you'd have Robert Mitchum on the screen, and Robert Mitchum would be smoking, and everybody would be like, "Oh my God, cool people smoke."
He's smoking that brand.
Yeah, and then they'll go out and they'll start smoking because that's what cool people do. Cool people smoke. And even the fact that there was once when, I think it happened one night, Clark Gable takes his shirt off, and he is not wearing on a vest underneath it. And then all of a sudden, after that film came out, the sales of vests in the US plummets because people are like, "Oh, real men don't wear vests." and then the idea that Tosin was talking about, or that I pushed him to, like the fact that what happened and how the fact that we could have cinemas in Nigeria, I think, started making people think about Nigeria and start thinking about themselves differently. And the fact after a while, Nigerian films started showing up in cinema because they were like, "Hang on a second, we could do this." And the fact that now, I know we name checked a whole bunch of production companies who are actually making Nigerian movies that don't make me want to cry. So
yeah, because I've seen Bollywood TV on Sky.
Not Nollywood.
I thought, hey,
no.
Nollywood. Excuse me. I've seen that Nollywood channel that you referenced, and I didn't last that long, I have to say, because I wanted to say, okay, I want to experience another culture, see if I want to watch something, that's not necessarily my own culture reflected back at me. So I'll go and watch that. And I think I lost about a quarter of an hour.
You lasted way longer than I do. well done. Well done.
But it is important, though, to have your culture reflected back at you, because I've often banged on about in the past how I do tend to watch most British films that comes out, because I do like to hear my accent. I do like to see, from countryside or things that I recognise on screen. Yeah. So you think, it's only right and fitting, isn't it, that around the world people want to see their own accent, their own faces, their own, culture reflected back at them, and not what someone else has interpreted through the lens of their culture. That you can say, and then actually this is my culture. And then sometimes I like watching like Talking Pictures channel, because I like those 50s and 60s British films because they were made for the British audience in mind. So they weren't trying to sell, this is what, postcard Britain is. They were sort of showing people this is us. Yeah, and I think that's important around the world.
And I think the enduring popularity of those rubbish Nollywood films backs up your point brilliantly. It doesn't matter if it's rubbish, we want to see ourselves reflected back. Yeah. and speaking about Talking Pictures, there was an article, I think it was on the BBC, talking about Talking Pictures and saying that how the entire channel is run by one family from the back of a farmhouse.
Yeah.
It has that feel about it, actually, doesn't it?
Yeah, I haven't read it yet. I just saw the headline and I was like, what?
Yeah, I think I read a little bit about it and the lockdown thing, because we watched a couple of movies. And it was saying that he bought all the rights to all these old British films and everything because no one really thought, they're not going to want them. No one's going to want to see them again. No one's going to want to see them again. And he's bought adverts and all sorts of things. So
and a lot of these series, we sit down sometimes when they play one of these, the whole series, like season 2 or 3 seasons, that every day they show us. Mum and I have sat down and watched some of those, from the early 70s that. They just make them laugh.
Yes, and all right, and
Robin's Nest.
Yeah, we watched Robin's Nest. There's Trouble with Ida or something, or there's
I haven't seen that.
With Wilfred
Man About the House.
Yeah, we watched some of those are quite excruciating to watch. But they do put this thing on at the
Share my
beginning. They have like a
pain.
warning. They do put a warning on there saying some of these scenes will reflect attitudes that were prevalent at the time, but we in no way endorse now. So sometimes the phrases they use, you go, "Whoa!"
Yeah, it's like how they're having to do that with a lot of stuff now, because of the whole Black Lives Matter resurgence recently. There's a whole bunch of TV shows that are having to have on streaming services and all that. They're having to have a placard beginning saying, some of the things you will see in this episode are reflective of the theme of the time. I think they're having to do that with a lot of Mad Men, because Mad Men was set in 50s and 60s, and you want to talk sexist, you want to talk racist, you want to talk things being horrible unless you were a straight white man. That Mad Men's all about that. All right, one final thing I want to say about Stars is that you know how we keep coming up with ways, we keep trying to find a new angle to talk about why the cinema experience is special and will not be replaced by a TV at home. And I loved Tosin's take on it, that he said about the fact that he's like, the cinema was like the only place I could watch a film and not be interrupted.
With his mum, say, "Come and help me get your tea on," or whatever.
It's pretty much it.
No,
power cut.
bring the tea, bring something in, and go right in front of the telly. And what's that? Oh, out the way! Oh no, I missed it. Oh, what? I'm sure they just do it on purpose, like those cats that sits on newspapers and things.
Oh yeah. I think he said it was another one of those terms that we had to explain in our glossary of Yoruba terms was ewedu, which is it's like a leaf, and I mentioned that it was used in the Middle East, and in the Middle East I actually asked my friend, I asked Dalia Yusuf, she calls it mulokaya. They call it mulokaya in the Middle East, and I think it's called mallow or something like that. She's written Jews.
I know that plant.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether she meant that Jewish people call it mallow or whether it's called Jews mallow or something like that. But it looks a little bit spinachy and everything like that. But yeah, Ewedu. He was
I know that plant.
Yeah, and it's we use it a lot in our cooking, and you have to sort of sit down and pick it and pick all the leaves off the stalk, and it's quite like an intensive thing. And so the idea that he sat down there trying to watch a film, and then his mom was like, "Come on, help me pick this away, dude." And he's like, "Oh." And by the time you finish it and you get back to try and finish watching your film, either the VHS player has eaten the tape, or there's been a power cut because NEPA has taken light and all that. And I was like, actually, yeah, that's a good point. And I can imagine that would have been like a refuge at that time in Nigeria. Just, I'm going to the cinema, they have a generator, there's not going to be a power cut, my mum isn't in here, she can't find me, nobody can disturb me, I'm going to watch this whole film. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to add that to the list of reasons why cinema will not be replaced. All right, so after last week, I mean, we haven't heard anything back from John Green yet, based on saying what you guys think he looks like. We haven't heard anything back from him yet, so we'll wait until he actually listens to the episode and tells us something. But what do you guys reckon Tosin looks like? Based solely on his voice.
Okay, I think he's probably taller than you.
Okay.
I think he's probably quite tall. I think he's going to be quite tall. Probably, I would say, probably you could almost, if you were to be seen together, he would be a taller brother. So it'd be like, so similar looking to you, I think.
Okay.
I would say so. I could just, taller. And I reckon that you two could probably, because you sounded like brothers. It sounded like cousins, mates, whatever, like that.
Yeah.
And some quite often you see that, don't you? There's like friends of your friends. They sort of, look similar.
Yep. Okay, cool. Sharon, any thoughts?
So
okay, sorry,
you,
hasn't finished. Okay, so like me, but
yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah.
Sharon?
Well, again, I thought he sounded like he was a tall, quite a big guy.
Okay.
I got a feeling he was like quite larger than life, and it just struck me as a sort of guy who you'd meet him within half an hour and he'd probably hug you, or he'd be one of those sort of guys who would be, quite affectionate in his sort of body language and his, if he liked you, you'd probably know it, and he'd probably be quite expressive. So I just got the feeling of someone like a big, expressive, warm, friendly guy.
All right, cool.
You two sounded really close. Were you really close?
Oh yeah, as I said, I've known it since I was 5. I've known it since I was 5 because what actually happened was. Sorry, carry on, Sean.
Did you get up to any mischief together? Have you got any tales you could tell? Right, okay.
Yeah, we got all sorts of stories that we did because we met each other. Because the way our families actually go, because our families are very close, and the way it happened was, my parents had moved from Lagos to from the Yoruba area of Nigeria to the Igbo area of Nigeria. So we moved from Lagos to a place called Aba. It's a bit like imagining you'd moved from London to Glasgow or something like that. And imagine you're at the market or something, and you hear another person with an East London accent, and you're like, "Oh my God, you're from East London as well!" And so my mum and his mum apparently were at the market, and they realized that they were both Yoruba, and there was 2 Yoruba women in a sea of Igbo people. And so that way they were like, "Oh my God, what are you doing here? My husband just got posted here. My husband just got posted here. You need to come visit us." And I remember that we weren't even in a house; we were still living in a guest house that was provided by the company my dad worked for, which was essentially Unilever in Africa, which is called United African Company.
Uh-huh.
And I remember being sat on the stairs, and I was 5 years old. We had just moved to this town, didn't know anybody, and I was sat on the stairs, sort of like, peering through the banisters as his dad, his mum, him, and his. It was just his dad, his mum, and him at that time, because his younger brother had not been born yet. His younger brother was born around about the same time my youngest brother was born. So, and they came into the house, and that was the first time I remember seeing them, and the families have been like thick as thieves ever since. That was in 1985. Cool. So yeah, that's lovely. So we go way back. There's things that we've done that our parents still don't know about, like playing table tennis on the dining table with a golf ball. Yeah, little known fact: golf balls bounce.
They do a lot.
They do.
Yeah, and so we were playing table tennis because we couldn't find a table tennis egg. So we were playing table tennis on the dining table with a golf ball, and we would have somebody on a looking out for my dad when my dad arrived home. And once my dad arrived home, it was like a military operation. It was like quick, and somebody would grab the table because there was a tablecloth over the table that we had taken off so we could have a good. We'd taken the tablecloth off the table. We'd made a net out of VHS tapes, and we were playing with like all these sort of modified bats, which are just pieces of wood that we'd found, and playing table tennis. And once my dad had arrived back, we'd be like, quick! And we had people who would quickly grab the tablecloth, put it back over the table, run around the table and push all the chairs back in, grab all the tapes, shove them in the cabinet underneath the TV, and all sit down and look like we've been doing our homework the whole time. So yeah, so there's
they're great getting up to mischief, isn't it?
Yeah. It does make me. It's at the moment I'm still at that point in life where I'm like, oh yeah, that was fun. Then I'm thinking, oh my God, my kids are gonna be like that. My kids are gonna do the same thing. Oh good Lord, no. Anyway, we just want to say once again, thank you so much, Tosin, for coming on the show, and yeah, thank you to my honorary Jabu man, Sean. Until next week, I'm gonna have to teach you a couple of words of how to say, like in Yoruba, you can say "bawoni," which means "how you doing."
Bawani.
Bawo. Bawo.
Bawa.
Bawo.
Bawo.
Bawoni.
Bawoni.
Yeah, bawoni. Yeah.
Bawoni.
Cool. And so,
you sure it's something good and not something?
Oh no, trust me. If
no, that's right. Okay.
If you walked up to a Yoruba person and you said "bawoni," they would be so impressed.
only it was just on about that. Yeah, I was because Jennifer, the Chinese assistant at work, there's a word. I won't say what word, but we said it meant somebody was really, really nice. It wasn't like it was like but anyway, and we were in the quiz down the thingy bob, and a couple of other people, and she went up, "Oh, you're a big," like that, and everybody was like, because she said it really, really loud, and they go, "You can't say that," and it's like, "No, you can't say that." So you have got to be careful, That was so funny. They still laugh about that because she thought it was a term of endearment.
Yep.
She thought it was a term of respect, and it wasn't at all. It's like, "Oh, you old."
Yeah,
so,
that reminds me of a scene with Jackie Chan in Rush Hour. But Anyway, I'll leave that there.
Okay.
Until next week, when I believe we have a published author joining us on the show next week to talk to us about his published author Ben Jeeps. We have him coming up next week. But until next week, when we speak to Ben Jeeps, it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
Thank you very much for joining us. And if you're still listening, seriously, get in touch with us on Twitter or on Facebook. You are our kind of person. See you later. Bye.